They've got some players back, the running back position. They also have a nice offensive line. The 2 tackles are back. And their quarterback, Peyton Thorne, is back again. And he was fantastic last year.
Yeah, just a sophomore now.
Oh, yeah, he was fabulous.
But they do replace 6 other offensive starters, and but most of the defense is back. Defense should be legit this year.
Absolutely.
Only replacing 2 guys on that side of the ball.
The tough thing for them is last year they were the worst in college football in the secondary. They were 130 in passing.
Yeah, that's not going to work against Ohio State.
Well, your head coach is a defensive back. Mel Tucker's a DB. Is he going to continue to let that happen? Well, they got a kid from Georgia. They got a big 6'3" guy from Georgia, and Mel Tucker said, "Well, these guys should be a little bit better. They played a lot of downs, but they played a lot of lousy downs."
Yeah, well, they still won 11 ball games last
11
year.
11-2.
And the losses were to Ohio State, of course, and to at Purdue. Their 2 losses. So they beat Michigan, and this is why Mel Tucker got the mega contract, because there was fear he was going to bolt to the SEC. There was talk of LSU for Mel Tucker middle of the season.
Yeah, I see his next move to the NFL.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, he's that highly regarded now. He was at Colorado and then took the deal
after
at Michigan
1
State.
year at Colorado, right?
Well, he saw an opportunity to get back to the Big Ten, and and took it. And so here he is. Now, look, I will be open about our process here. Michigan State was one of the final teams in. We were debating between, and you weren't at you were off last week, so you weren't at our roundtable where we discussed this. But off air, Chad and I and Harge and Rob, we were talking about Michigan State, and the name NC State, North Carolina State, was a team we mentioned there. And I think there's a lot of folks that think NC State can be a team like Michigan State a year ago.
Yes.
Where no one's really talking about them, but all of a sudden they jump up and win 10 ball games out of the ACC.
Yeah, they got quite a defense coming back.
They do. And Michigan State just has a lot of questions, but this, ranking them at 19 is just, I think, credit to Mel Tucker, credit to the culture he's built and kind of built on last year's 11-win season and bowl victory. The question is, can he plug all those holes again? And they did.
Well, I think they can. If your quarterback's coming back and having a record-breaking year last year, you've got 2 receivers still returning. They like their tight end. They love their 2 tackles. And if they can run the ball, because it's all about the run game with them.
Yeah.
It's a set of what they do.
It is, and they're a meat and potatoes ball club. The problem for Michigan State, as we say it every time we highlight them, is they play on the wrong side of the Big Ten.
Yes.
I mean, the Big Ten is so one-sided. Where on the eastern flank of the Big Ten, you've got Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Michigan State. And then over there on the west, you have just Wisconsin. And Wisconsin, Big Ten to me is kind of like the SEC East for Georgia, right? Wisconsin's over there. Who's going to beat them? Iowa, Purdue, Nebraska? Don't think so. But over where if Michigan State were in the West, which they're not, they'd have a real opportunity. But when you're on the side with Michigan, who was in the Final Four last year, Ohio State, who's coming back with a chip on their shoulder and will be a top 3 team for everybody with all that talent, and Penn State with James Franklin. Can they finish higher than 4th? Can they get above those teams in the eastern flank of the Big Ten?
Yeah, they'll play Penn State late in the year. By that time, James Franklin won't have any players left.
They play at Penn State, though. They play at Michigan. They play at their big early non-conference game is going across country to play Washington.
Right.
UW in a non-con game on September 17th. That'll be a big test for them. But then Ohio State at home. They got Wisconsin at home on homecoming, which is big. How about that stretch right there, Buck?
Oh.
October 8th to 15th into their bye week. They play Ohio State and Wisconsin back-to-back weeks.
And a week off, and then you're at Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you got the mighty Fighting Illini.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to find out a lot about Michigan State this morning and learn more about Mel Tucker and what he's doing. We do have a great guest next hour coming on who covers that team on a daily basis for 24/7 Sports. Stephen Brooks will be with us. Also in the 9 o'clock hour, Buck, our buddy, Howard Griffith.
Yes.
Griff will join us.
Griffith's out in Cali.
Ooh, he's going to come up early then.
I'm wondering if they're having him go to USC, even though it's kind of early, but,
Well, because, to my point of the unbalanced Big Ten, when USC and UCLA join, they will join. Ooh. I don't know how they break it up. And who knows, by the time they join, there could be more teams. There's still a lot of people that think Oregon and Washington are next to join. And by the way, while we're on that conversation in the Big Ten, can we just say it's probably better for the Big Ten if they could add Oregon and Washington when the Pac-12 destabilizes, which is going to happen here coming up? Because, when we talk about Western and Eastern flanks, you can't have USC and UCLA traveling into the Central Time Zone, into the Eastern Time Zone for everything that they do.
You're right.
They can't be the only teams out there, can they? USC and UCLA are agreeing to it, but for student athletes and for teams, think about any road game USC is going to play. in any sport, once they start playing in the Big Ten, once conference play begins, argument would be if you could add Oregon, Washington, maybe even Cal and Stanford, that would at least give you a far western flank where you could schedule more of your games in through there, scheduling purposes, and travel into the central time zone and east occasionally, just not every time. I think that have to be a thought. But as far as balancing out the conference, you certainly would have USC and UCLA on the western side, which would be a balance it out a little bit with Wisconsin, who is kind of on their own there out west, unless Iowa steps up.
Yeah, and we know how Iowa plays strong early in the season, then they start to fade.
Kirk Ferentz, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so there's our first look at Michigan State. We'll get an insider view, and Howard Griffith, who does a great job at the Big Ten Network, his thoughts on Mel Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans. We have him right at number 19 in our countdown to number 1. So there's our first look at the Spartans. We'll get back into trade deadline conversation. Also, the Deshaun Watson decision. A lot of people still head-scratching about how that came down in the 6 games. As I said, I did read the opinion of the judge, and I don't want to say it makes perfect sense, but I understand what she's saying of why it was a 6-game suspension. And I'll say it this way, Buck, before we get into the conversation. She believes she gave him a very severe punishment based on precedent in the NFL. Like
yeah, maybe if they didn't have precedent, he may have got 2 games or 3 games.
Well, that's part of her argument.
Yeah.
You can't ask me to set precedent here. A 6-game suspension based on the history of discipline in the NFL is a severe punishment. I know for the average fan who hears it and sees it 6 games for all the allegations, not a lot. But she made it pretty clear that this is based on your history. This is severe. This is a severe punishment that's in line with Ben Roethlisberger, that's in line with Zeke Elliott. And for a nonviolent offense, which she called these are nonviolent, then this is right in line with the past.
What they've done, yes.
In the past in the NFL. So we'll get into that. And it should be noted that is that's the first really big punishment that's been handed down under the new system that
right.
was collectively bargained between the players and the owners, bringing in this independent arbiter and a former federal judge who made her ruling. Now the question becomes, what does Roger Goodell do as far as an appeal, and can he come in and unilaterally change that decision? We'll get into that coming up. Also back into trade deadline 2022. Cowboys news, not good. Already a notable injury for Dallas. We'll get into it with you as well. It's a busy Tuesday here on 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260, streaming always on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Oh, man, the Viking Horn, what a great partner they are with us and all the folks here at the Horn. But Viking Fence is the best fence company in Austin, Texas, and has been for 50 years. That is absolutely right. Since 1972, Viking Fence has been installing the best permanent fences, wood privacy, iron fences, gates, and handrails, and certainly that temporary rental fence division is the best as well. That's what they do at Viking Fence. It's all they do. They have not expanded over 50 years to become something more, something different. They don't do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They do fences, and they simply do them better than anybody at Viking Fence. And all you have to do is go to that website or call them to set it up. If you're new to town, you need to know Viking Fence has been doing this since 1972. They've been trusted in the Lone Star State all that time. They do it all. Wood privacy, iron fences, gates. Remember, they have their own on-site lumber mill where they can produce different grades of that western red cedar. They have their own on-site gate fabrication facility, any kind of residential or commercial gate, and that iron facility as well with the CNC bending equipment, cold and hot forging capability, pipe bending. This is all the investments they've made to be able to control the raw material and control the quality of the product from start to finish, so they bring you the highest quality but also the best value every single time. You cannot go wrong, I promise you, no matter whatever your fence need is for your home or business, commercial or residential.